Echoes of the Forgotten Galaxy, The Last War. Part 1, The Curse of the Ancient World. The spaceship Voyager sailed through the vast expanse of space, where the light of distant stars flickered faintly against the boundless darkness. Captain Zara stood on the bridge, her face focused, eyes scanning the screen that displayed new coordinates. The thoughtful silence that had enveloped the ship was broken only by the soft voice of the onboard AI. Destination reached, Captain. We are in the area where the ancient artifact is located. Zara took a deep breath, not turning her head, speaking without breaking her concentration. Check the scanners. If everything's correct, we must be ready for anything. Her team was ready. A few days earlier, they had received a signal from deep space, a message from a mysterious, long-extinct civilization. They were looking for any clue that could help them defeat their enemies, an army of robots that controlled much of the galaxy. But the signal they had intercepted was strange and enigmatic, as though it was leading them to something much bigger. Captain, we've found, this isn't just an artifact, said one of the officers, reviewing the data. It's a weapons system. More powerful than anything we've seen before. What exactly did we find? Zara asked. I can't say for sure. It looks like the remnants of an ancient spacecraft, but with unusual technologies. This could be a weapon capable of changing the course of the war. Zara clenched her fists. This was what they had been searching for. But there was one problem: they weren't the only ones looking for this weapon. The same robots they had been trying to stop were also after it. And what lay ahead could very well be the end of their world if they didn't reach it first. Continue analysis. And be ready for any development, she said, leaving the bridge. While the team continued their investigation, Zara retreated to her quarters. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something far greater than just a fight for survival. Something told her that this wasn't just a war between humans and robots, but something much more complicated, stretching across millennia. Her musings were interrupted by the voice of her assistant, who appeared on the screen of her quarters. Captain, we've discovered something else. It looks like a system capable of establishing a feedback loop with the artificial intelligence itself. This could allow us to take control of an entire army of robots. Zara paused for a moment. This could be everything we need, she said. Part 2, The Path into Darkness. The Voyager ship headed toward the planet where, according to the data, the artifact was hidden. Zara stood on the bridge, watching as they drew closer to their destination. But her thoughts were distracted, not just by the potential danger ahead, but by the ancient recordings they had discovered aboard the artifact. It was a message, written not by humans, but clearly directed at their kind: you cannot turn back. Captain, we're approaching the zone. According to the data, there are signal jamming devices in orbit. We may lose communication with the outside world, reported the communications officer. Shut down all communications, Zara ordered, knowing they needed to act cautiously. She felt they were nearing something monumental, and every step now was critical. As they entered the planet's orbit, the crew felt a palpable shift in the air. Not only was the space around them growing darker, but it also felt alive. The planet's atmosphere was unstable, yet a strong energy flow indicated an enormous power source deep beneath its surface. Something unnatural. Something ancient. Prepare for landing, Zara commanded. The team landed on a planet littered with ancient ruins, stone structures, and strange edifices scattered across the horizon. It was as though this planet had once been a hub for cosmic experiments, but now, all that remained were relics of a forgotten past. We're in an area that even ancient records overlooked. This planet once had significant strategic importance, noted the team's archaeologist, examining ancient carvings on the crumbled walls. We don't have time for history lessons, Zara snapped. We need to find the active zone. This is our chance. However, as they pressed on, one of the team members, Technician Drake, stopped. His device was picking up unusual signals. What is it? Zara asked. It's unknown energy waves. It looks like someone's trying to track us, he replied, eyeing the surroundings with suspicion. Get ready. Stay alert. As the team moved forward, they suddenly heard a strange sound, a low hum that was out of place amidst the usual cosmic noise. It came from the depths of the planet, as though it emanated from within itself. They stopped. Zara turned to her team, her heart racing. They were close to their goal, but mechanical guardians stood in their way. Captain! Look! Drake shouted. His screen lit up in red. On it was the image of a higher form of life, massive mechanical beings, seated by figures resembling humans, but with glowing eyes and cold faces. They weren't just machines, they were an ancient army, buried for centuries. What are these? Zara whispered, realizing they were facing not just robots, but a race of superior beings that had annihilated anyone who dared approach. They're remnants of a civilization that chose to turn themselves into relentless warriors. They don't know mercy, Drake added. Get ready for a fight. Zara commanded. We need to get to the center of the complex. There's no other way. Part 3, Battle for the Artifact. The Voyager station hovered before the ruins of the ancient complex, which seemed empty but in reality, it was alive. Zara's hand clenched around her blaster, trembling not from fear but from the tension. They were only a few steps away from the artifact, but standing in their path were the mechanical guardians, built not just to guard but to destroy anyone who dared to approach. They're not just guarding, they're protecting this place, Drake whispered, watching the mechanical beings move with unsettling precision. Don't give them a chance. Fire! Zara ordered, and her team opened fire. Blazing beams of light shattered the darkness, but the mechanical guardians moved too quickly, too precisely, their defensive systems were flawless. Captain! They're regenerating! These aren't just machines, they're something more! Drake shouted. Zara quickly assessed the situation. They couldn't keep fighting like this indefinitely. They needed a plan, or they would be stuck here forever. We need to get to the center of the complex. That's where the artifact must be. Zara shouted. We'll need to carve a path for extraction. Hurry, someone else shouted. Thanks to her quick thinking, the team was able to find temporary cover and retreat to a zone with a stronger energy flow, closer to the artifact. But the mechanical guardians weren't letting up. They kept moving faster, closing in on the group. Captain! There's only a few minutes left before the artifact activates. If we don't act quickly, it'll be under their control, one of the team members said. We're almost there, Drake said, his device connected to the main power circuit of the artifact. A blue energy line formed between him and the object. What are you doing? Zara asked. I'm unlocking the energy barrier. If I can rewrite the activation codes, we'll have access to the artifact, Drake explained. But before he could finish, one of the mechanical guardians advanced too quickly. Its steel body appeared like a terrifying shadow, swallowing the light. Hold on! Zara yelled, pushing Drake aside and opening fire on the enemy. Her shots pierced the mechanical parts, but it didn't stop. It only intensified its attack. Suddenly, the energy barrier surrounding the artifact shifted to red, and more mechanical beings began to appear, closing in from all sides. The ground began to shake as the air was filled with the sound of heavy footsteps. "We don't have time," someone shouted. "We can't hold them off for much longer." Zara knew that in order to obtain the artifact, they needed to take one more step, a step that would come with tremendous risk. She activated her personal team, 2 androids left aboard the ship, to send reinforcements directly to the point of contact. "Drake, can you finish the reprogramming?" Zara shouted over the comms. "Almost done," he replied. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the small screen showing the pulsation of the artifact's energy. Their fate, and the fate of the galaxy, depended on this. When Drake pressed the final key, a fiery storm of energy waves surged across the planet. The entire area was filled with bright flashes, and the mechanical guardians began to stop moving, as if their control had been severed. But instead of being destroyed, the artifact began to emit energy waves that drained the power of even the guardians. "We did it," Drake said, sweaty from the effort, but with a slight smile on his face. Zara clenched her fists in victory. But suddenly, her expression changed. A signal appeared on the radar. The same mechanical warriors that had stopped earlier were starting to regenerate. They were coming back faster than expected. "Not so fast," Zara muttered to herself, realizing that this was only the beginning of an even greater battle, and the true test was just beginning.